You know that moment. The one where you stop reaching out mid-text because you can already feel the distance coming. You stare at your phone, read the dry reply, maybe just, okay. Maybe a heart with no warmth in it. Maybe nothing at all. And suddenly the whole room feels colder than it did 30 seconds ago. You tell yourself not to overreact. Not again. But your chest tightens anyway, because deep down, you already know what this silence means. And your mind starts talking. Why does this keep happening? Why do I always end up wanting more than they do? If I matter to them, why do I feel so alone? Am I asking for too much? Am I the problem? Here's the truth nobody tells you. You do not lose an avoidant by pulling your energy back. You lose yourself by chasing someone who only feels safe when you stay emotionally hungry. You're not failing at love. You're not too much. And this is not proof that you're impossible to stay close to. If you've been trapped in that exhausting push-pull cycle, by the end of this video, you're going to understand the 3 bold shifts that make an avoidant feel your absence, respect your value, and stop mistaking your availability for weakness. Let's get into it. Most people believe the way to keep an avoidant close is to be more patient, more understanding, more available, less needy, less emotional, less honest about what you actually need. But the real truth is almost the opposite. Avoidant dynamics do not get stronger when you shrink. They get stronger when you become emotionally self-respecting. Here's the thing. Most couples think distance means the avoidant partner doesn't care. But beneath the surface, that's usually not what's happening at all. What looks cold is often someone whose nervous system learned a long time ago that closeness comes with pressure, expectation, engulfment, or disappointment. So when intimacy deepens, their body doesn't read it as love first. It reads it as risk. And that changes everything. Because if their nervous system is reading closeness as pressure, then your chasing does not feel romantic to them. It feels invasive. Your over-explaining does not feel clarifying. It feels heavy. Your constant availability does not feel safe. It feels like something they now have to manage. Not more empathy. Not more waiting. Not more, I just need you to understand me. But a different emotional posture entirely. Because when safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't always disappear. It goes underground. And in anxious avoidance cycles, both people are usually longing for the same thing: connection, reassurance, presence. But one reaches for it by moving closer, and the other reaches for it by moving away. One says, "Come here." The other says, "Give me room." One feels abandoned, the other feels trapped. And both of them end up feeling unseen. So this video is not about punishing an avoidant. It's not about games. It's not about becoming cold, detached, or emotionally unavailable yourself. It's about becoming the kind of person whose presence is real, whose boundaries are clean, and whose love no longer comes with self-abandonment attached to it. And here's what changes everything. When you stop trying to convince someone to choose you, you become impossible to relate to casually. That is when the patterns shift. That is when the walls start to shake. That is when an avoidant finally has to feel what your energy used to protect them from. Stop over-explaining your heart. Most couples think clarity will save the connection, so they explain more, They text longer. They try harder to be understood. They keep offering context, softness, patience, nuance. Because they believe if they can just say it the right way, the other person will finally meet them there. But with an avoidant, over-explaining often has the opposite effect. Because beneath the surface, your long emotional processing can land like pressure. Not because your feelings are wrong, not because your needs are too much, but because their nervous system is already bracing. It's already hearing, "I'm about to be responsible for something I don't know how to carry." And the more you explain, the more withdrawn they become. Not always outwardly. Sometimes it's subtle. Shorter replies, less presence, more confusion, more, "I don't know what you want from me." Here's the part no one talks about. Over-explaining is often what you do when you no longer trust your own reality to stand on its own. It's what happens when part of you is trying to present your pain in a form the other person can't reject. But real power sounds different. It is not frantic, not crowded, not pleading. It is simple, clean, grounded. So instead of this, "I'm not trying to fight with you. I just feel like lately you've been distant, and I know you've been stressed, and I'm trying to be understanding, but it's been hurting me, and I just need to know where I stand because I feel confused all the time." You say this: "You've been distant. I'm not available for half connection. If you want this, show up. If not, I'll act accordingly." That hits different. Because one version is trying to earn care. The other is revealing standards. And somewhere inside them, a quiet thought starts forming. "She's not chasing me this time." Or, "He's not trying to force closeness. He actually means what he says." And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without you having to beg for the door to open. 2. Let the silence expose the pattern. Most people in relationships panic when the avoidant pulls back. They rush in, they check in again, they send the "just making sure we're okay" text. They try to repair what hasn't even been named yet because the silence feels unbearable. It feels like drift. It feels like danger. And honestly, if you've lived through emotional inconsistency before, your nervous system probably hears distance like a smoke alarm in the middle of the night. So you move toward, fast. But here's the deeper truth. When you interrupt every silence, you also interrupt every consequence. You protect the avoidant from feeling the full emotional shape of their own withdrawal. You make it easier for them to disappear for a bit and still come back to warmth, access, reassurance, and the exact same version of you waiting on standby. That is the cycle. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Silence is not always abandonment. Sometimes it is revelation. Sometimes it is the only thing exposing what the relationship actually is when you stop holding all of it together by yourself. Not chasing, not fixing, not sending one more gentle check-in, but allowing the space to tell the truth. That doesn't mean you become petty. It doesn't mean you perform indifference. It means you stop buffering someone from the relational impact of their own patterns. So instead of this, "Hey, just wanted to check in. No pressure, I know you've got a lot going on. Just miss you. Hope we're okay." You say nothing. And when they finally circle back with, "Sorry, I've just been busy," instead of immediately rewarding the return with relief, you say, "I understand, but this kind of inconsistency doesn't work for me." That's not a communication hack. That's what emotional maturity looks like when it stops negotiating with confusion. Because what's happening beneath the surface is huge. Their system is used to distance costing them very little. But now something in them starts registering, wait, my absence is no longer being managed for me. And sometimes, for the first time, they actually feel your absence in a real way. Not as drama, not as punishment, as reality. And that's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels honest enough to either deepen or end. 3. Become harder to access casually. Most couples confuse availability with love. They think being easy to reach, easy to return to, easy to disappoint, and easy to soothe with crumbs is what makes a relationship work. So they stay emotionally open even when the other person is inconsistent. They stay reachable even when they feel unseen. They keep offering presence to someone who is only showing up in fragments. But here's what nobody explains. Avoidant people often do not fully confront your value while your energy remains permanently available. If you are always there, always warm, always understandable, always one vulnerable conversation away from re-entry, then your presence starts to feel like background noise. Familiar, reliable, easy to postpone. And love was never meant to be treated like that. This is where it gets really interesting. Becoming harder to access casually does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming congruent. Your words match your behavior. Your standards match your availability. Your connection is no longer something people can dip in and out of without cost. Because real intimacy is not built on access. It's built on earned safety. So instead of this, they disappear for 3 days, come back with, "Hey, stranger," and you respond, "Lol, hi, I missed you." You shift to this. They disappear for 3 days, come back with, "Hey, stranger," and you respond, "I'm not doing casual energy with someone I'm emotionally invested in." That sentence has spine. And yes, it may disappoint them. Good. Because disappointment is often the first emotional mirror an avoidant has looked into in a long time. And what they see there matters. They see that you are no longer available for the version of love where they keep the power by keeping things vague. They see that your presence has weight now. They see that connection with you requires presence, not just preference. And inside, the unspoken monologue starts. I thought they'd still be here in the same way. Then later, why does losing access to them suddenly feel so real? And maybe, if they are capable of growth, I actually have to show up differently if I want to keep this. This isn't about making yourself scarce to manipulate somebody. Not game playing, not fake detachment, not weaponized self-help. This is just what two emotionally mature people naturally do when they understand that love without self-respect always becomes unstable. And when you do that, your partner stops feeling like someone you have to convince and starts becoming someone who either rises to meet you or reveals that they never could. So if you've been waiting for an avoidant to suddenly become clear, steady, and emotionally available, while you keep absorbing the confusion, hear me. Your power was never in how well you could endure uncertainty. It was in how clearly you could refuse to build a life inside it. This isn't a checklist. It's an identity shift. You are becoming someone who doesn't over-explain their worth, someone who doesn't rush to fill every silence with anxiety. Someone who stops offering deep access to people who only want occasional closeness without real responsibility. And when you internalize that, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing connection and start embodying it. You become the kind of partner who creates safety without abandoning themselves to do it. Honestly, that changes everything. Because whether this person rises or not, you do. Whether they come closer or not, you get clearer. Whether they choose growth or not, you stop living inside cycles that keep breaking your heart in the same exact shape. And that is the real win. The moment you stop begging for consistent love is the moment you become impossible to meet inconsistently.